Hey everybody, how you doing? Some news out there that's fake news that I'm here to destroy. Period. End of story. Doing that right. Absolute now. And because somebody has to do it, it's out there as usual. It's gone way too far, and it's absolutely ridiculous. In the city of Oakland and the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum really ought to be completely ashamed of itself and what it's doing in terms of putting this out there, leaking it, and allowing this fake news to go around in the middle of a pandemic. Awful. First of all, this effort to put out the idea that the A's are not paying or they're skipping out is something that is not true. And all the other news organizations that put this out there and are piling on just basically showed how ridiculously lazy they are. Okay, I'm saying that straight out. In not even bothering to look at the minutes of the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum Joint Powers Authority board meeting of the 15th. Yeah, you heard exactly what I said, okay? They didn't even bother. They didn't care. All right, let me read to you exactly what's happening here, all right? First of all, this is what was put in the report of the 15th of May, 2020 meeting of the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum Joint Powers Authority Board. And this has to do with the specific issue of the use of facilities in the middle of the pandemic. Requests for use of the parking lot for COVID-19 testing and use of the arena for antibody testing. We continue to get multiple requests. This is the Coliseum people. And this is led by Executive Director Henry Gardner, who I'm really both surprised and disappointed would be basically at the helm of this misinformation and treating the A's in this way. We continue to get multiple requests for use of the parking lot for COVID-19 testing, and more recently, a request for use of the arena for antibody testing. We have responded to each inquiry by requesting information in writing, the name of the organization, the principal person making the request, dates and times of use, number of persons to be tested, approval by the county health department, and plans for traffic control. Protocols for use of the arena for antibody testing require a higher level of review and approval, and cannot proceed without supervision by qualified medical personnel. When provided with these requirements, none of the requesters have followed up. We've also received a request for use of the stadium for a series of graduation ceremonies. We have denied those requests. Then it continues. Financial impacts from canceled or postponed events at arena and stadium. The general manager of AEG/ASM is providing a report on the financial impacts of canceled or postponed events. That includes baseball, I might add, because remember, we have been long past baseball opening day, and we know why baseball opening day, let alone the schedule, isn't happening, right? It continues. Given the current state of the shelter-in-place orders and the conditions the governor has imposed for reopening, it is unlikely that we will be able to host any events before September, and perhaps not before January 2021. It is imperative that AEG ASM substantially reduce its operating expenses for the remainder of this fiscal year and next fiscal year. Even if the mandates are lifted before September, a prudent conservative expectation is that attendance will be light and should be incorporated in any projections. Here is the Oakland A statement, and I thank them for responding so very quickly. Given the local state of emergency due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Oakland Coliseum has been kept available by the city of Oakland and Alameda County as a potential surge location. Due to this important health measure, the local shelter-in-place directive and the state and local bans on public gatherings of more than 1,000 people in city facilities, including the Coliseum, the Joint Powers Authority has been unable to make the Coliseum available for use by the A's. The A's have fully supported the health directives and community efforts by the city of Oakland, Alameda County, and the state of California. The A's sent notice to the JPA in March, stating the club is in support of these public health efforts and would defer annual rent payment given the building was not available for use by the organization per provisions in the contract. The A's look forward to when the county and city feel it is safe to lift current directives and the A's are granted access to the facility to play baseball. Stay well. So under those circumstances, why would anyone expect the Athletics to all of a sudden cough up rent? You wouldn't. But what I find more sinister about this is that it was leaked, and that it was leaked to organizations that are traditional media that don't care to actually follow up and say, hey, you know what? What did the JPA board say? Or more to the point, be activist in their way and ask the Joint Powers Authority, why aren't you helping the Athletics obtain a payment protection program loan? Okay. The Athletics, among other sports organizations, are small mom and pop companies. They're small mom and pop companies. The A's in particular have laid off a number of people. They are not wealthy. Not by standard, common sports definitions in the middle of a pandemic. Something that no one expected, where the common sources of income the Athletics enjoy, even to this day, including revenues from ticket purchases, the secondary ticket market, jersey purchases, memorabilia, all that down. And in some cases, non-existent. Anyone who expects a baseball organization to operate as if its standard operating procedure has no idea how the business of a baseball organization works. Unfortunately, it would seem that some of those people are on the Coliseum Joint Powers Authority board as I speak. The board needs to be reconstituted entirely. Politicians do not need to serve on the board. They should be removed and replaced with persons who have a professional sports experience combined with intergovernmental relations to effectively move forward. But anyone who is an elected official whose head is, by nature of the job, always on a swivel. I have seen Oakland council members in particular bring documents into meetings of the Coliseum Joint Powers Authority that they're reading that have nothing to do with the meeting. Nothing. Okay? And they think people aren't going to notice that. Or they're conducting texts that have nothing to do with the meeting. A person who doesn't have another meeting to go to that has nothing to do with the A's and on something else, and then another meeting after that that has nothing to do with that subject and on something else, isn't going to do that. It's the nature of an elected official to not be entirely wholly concentrated on one particular thing at a time. Therefore, to expect people who run that organization, who sit on it and call them, make the decisions on a regular basis, to be effective is pure folly. And we've reached the height of that. This has to stop. Period, in its tracks, forthwith. This has to stop. It is government incompetence. No one's showing up the athletics at all. Whoever thought of this, and I think I know who, and I'm not going to mention the name, just basically stuck it to themselves. Bad idea. I mean, completely bad idea. Hey, Aaron C., how are you doing? Nice to see you. This isn't even something to consider. The question should be, why is the city and county, the Joint Powers Authority, not assisting the athletics in pursuing payroll protection program assistance? Why is the mayor of Oakland, as of today, embarking on the establishment of an economic council, or whatever they call themselves, a recovery council? What a joke. That's going to take 4 to 6 months. That's not a recovery. That's a recipe for disaster. Obviously, as per what I've read to you, the economic problems are immediate and real. They're not going to unfold in 4 to 6 months, nor will the climate automatically just get better. And voila, guess what? Hey, no economic problem. That's not how it works. Oakland needs to get its sports business act together. I repeat, Oakland needs to get its business activities with respect to sports act together. This is embarrassing. It should not have happened. And it should have been done back channel, not handed off to people who have no idea what they're reading, no idea how the business of sports works, no idea what to look for. None. If they did, the first trip the media would have made, the other media, you watch mine, would have been hey, to the minutes of the Coliseum board from the 15th of May of 2020. They're right there in black and white, folks. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to find them. Just use your favorite search engine and you'll go right to them. Purely nonsensical, purely unreasonable, purely unnecessary, purely ridiculous. And again, the biggest thing that needs to be done in all of this is the one thing the JPA is not going to do, is the one thing the city of Oakland is not going to do, is the one thing the county of Alameda is not going to do. They're not going to get involved in any kind of economic rescue effort that helps the athletics because, oh, it's baseball. But you see, that's why politicians should not be involved. All right? Period. Okay? And that's why politicians should not be involved. Okay? Period. End of story. Okay? I mean, everybody wants to get their face out there and their name in the paper and be a celebrity in Oakland. Have you ever noticed that Oakland is probably the only major city that doesn't celebrate its celebrities on a regular basis, who doesn't have a sighting of its celebrities, whose celebrities leave and become, well, celebrities someplace else and not in Oakland? If you're an elected official and you're watching this, you ought to be concerned. Because it's your fault. It's your fault. Good economic development practice does not say, turn around, bite your main tenant in the ass, and embarrass them in the media, or try to, completely losing sight of the point of fact that the fiscal relationship is such that you're winding up binding your own self in the butt. How stupid. No, seriously, how stupid. And the people involved in this are friends of mine. You need to get your collective act together. I am tired of being on the side of this where I'm having to be the only person that criticizes you. Primarily because we don't have an effective system of bloggers anymore, or we don't really have any vloggers that say much of anything. We have just people that go down and yell at council, but hey, guess what? We're shelter in place. They can't do that. Pity. Maybe. The bottom line is this. It is your responsibility when you recognize that you don't know something, to take yourself out of the picture and put in people who are specialists at that. You had one in Scott McKibben. Look at how you treated him. You set him up, put him in a situation where you knew and asked him to be a marketing professional. And you said nothing to him about receiving the same type of compensation that all other marketing consultants, professionals who've worked with the Coliseum Joint Powers Authority have received. And you didn't handle it back channel either. You've constructed this organization that looks to slam people, looks to try to make them look bad, looks to do character assassination at every turn, okay? Every turn, all right? Or every turn. We have a serious problem. Serious. And that problem has to go away. Okay? Period. End of story. It can be done by initiative, but hey, guess what? The people who normally would do such a thing are just fighting to maintain their economic lives. Is the city and the city and county helping out with it? No. The city on the sidelines, concerned about healthcare? Great, fantastic. Setting up all of the services that basically designed to wait until you get to a point where you got nobody else to rely on but them, and then you'll be lucky if you get help from them. No. The job of government is to prevent people as best it can from getting into situations that are dire. That's the way it should be. And if anybody is holding a position in government and yet deliberately withholding ways to help people, please resign immediately. Step down immediately. Get out immediately. This kind of incompetence is rampant, and it must be put to an end. And the only way to put it to an effective end is to talk about it and point it out to people again and again and again until the electorate understands, hey, you know what? We can have something better, and maybe you don't belong in the position you're in, and maybe we need something different. Enough of these ego plays. I've had it. We're in the middle of a damn pandemic, and you're fooling around politically and with old traditional media organizations that think, he's a journalist. They don't know what the heck they're doing. And I'm not a journalist, and I say that proudly. This whole system is screwed up. It really is. And you who are responsible for doing this ought to be ashamed of yourself. Period. End of story. And resign. The Joint Powers Authority needs to be reconstituted. It needs to be reformed. As I think about it, the range of issues that have been exemplary of how dysfunctional Coliseum management has been overall started with the city with respect to the athletics and the county with respect to the athletics. Who can forget? I can't. The famous arguments over the course of the year 2012 between Oakland City Council, Alameda County Coliseum Joint Powers, Alameda County, not the Coliseum, but the Alameda County Board of Supervisors, and with the Joint Powers Authority as the seat for members representing both the city and the county, where there are constant disputes and bickering during the A's lease led to what was nearly engineered a whole new way of operating the Coliseum that never materialized and should have. Back then, the county wanted to get out of the running the Coliseum. It wasn't that it couldn't run it, okay? It was simply that the politicians insisted on being in charge. You would say, well, how did we get here? It was for some good intentions. My friend, the former Oakland City Council member, District 5, and City Council President, Ignacio De La Fuente, spearheaded the reformed Joint Powers Authority in 1996, saying it's our money now. Hey, Brian, get a link. Come on in here. Hold on a second. And it was then that he said, it's our money now. And why? Because, well, the Raiders bond issue was going south, and the city and the county's general fund coffers lifted it because of the way the lease revenue bond was structured. It's not a general obligation bond. The Las Vegas Stadium, which is going to suffer a similar fate, is a general obligation bond. Yes, I said it just like that. Just like that. Okay. Now, where I give credit to Las Vegas is they had more people from the business involved. But ultimately, the politicians that drove that effort, insisted on having a too low hotel stadium tax rate of 88/100ths of 1% rather than 1%. It should have been 1.4%. I wrote that on the 17th of April of 2017, before the vote, by months. And so, I wrote that in 2016, not 2017, 2016. Why is that important? Because let me use a line from Reservoir Dogs. If they had done what I told them to do, they'd have been 800 million up. And yeah, I'm paraphrasing a famous line by Michael Madsen, but it's true. If they had done what I told them to do, they would have been 800 million up by now. But they didn't listen. Oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about, all that other stuff. Yeah, right. I can levy the same criticisms with Oakland. Okay? The same ones. And now you get a clue as to why I've designed my own private Idaho. This is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. get a seasoned A's fan in here who actually is going to be a guest on tomorrow. Brian, I'll listen see if see what he has to say about this ridiculous crap. And excuse me, I'm calling him in from the bullpen as I speak. How's that? How's that? Calling him in from the bullpen as I speak. And I can't call him a pinch hitter. He's more like a major hitter. Yeah, a major hitter. He represents the Intercontinental Group. Major A's fan for a long, long time. There he is. Brian, there's your stream link. If you come on in. Raiders SP, I'm all right. All right. Raiders, Aaron, I don't want to talk about it. Okay. I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times. Allegiant Stadium is late. Looks great? Yes. Beautiful? Yeah. But it's late. Hey, man, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on?
Oh, man, I got me pissed off like nobody's business today. I mean, you know,
good.
I got a text about this crap. I looked at it, and one publication, it was Bleacher Report, they just put in what Henry Gardner said. I reached directly out to the A's. I was trying to get Dave on. Carolyn sent me their statement, but I'd already read, just by happenstance, the board minutes from the 15th of May, which basically said, hey, you know what? We expect low revenues because nobody's going to be using the facility. Well, duh. So why would you then turn around and get off to the A's about not paying rent?
Exactly right.
You know, am I missing something here?
It's like, it's kind of like, oh, hey, we knew you were going to pay the rent, but we're going to go behind your back here, and we're going to go to the media, and we're going to tell them what bad people you are because you didn't pay the rent that we weren't expecting you to pay.
Yeah, and then the media is stupid enough to buy it. That's what's ridiculous. People out there still, well, I got something. Oh, I got something. I'm like, really? Seriously? You guys like, it's like, you know, Tweedledum and Tweedledee. I don't care what anybody thinks about what I'm saying. I'm freaking tired of this stuff.
Yeah.
This is government incompetence gone rampant.
I mean, it's almost rampant. It's like who is it's almost like someone is intentionally trying to sabotage a situation. You know what I mean? Like by going out and doing this to try to make them look bad to everybody, and you know, when they may or may not be the bad guy. You know what I mean? It's they're not the bad guy.
We're in the middle of a pandemic. People are suffering. They're trying to keep their jobs. I tell people, and I remember it was really struck on me when I first started going to owners' meetings, way back when I was working on trying to win the Super Bowl at Oakland, about to what degree the NFL is really a collection of mom and pops, or if you want to look at it, and by extension, also Major League Baseball. Or if you want to look at it another way, a lot of people who, you know, for whatever reason got very lucky and got really, really wealthy, you know, but they're still like mom and pops because corporations can't own, and they should be able to, I think, but corporations cannot own sports teams under our system. Remember how Eddie DeBartolo had it set up? You know, it was genius because he was able to use the tax system and then get the Niners on these great wide bodies and fly them all over the place. And somebody got jealous and said, "Oh no, you can't do that, man." So, but you know, it's wild. David Halston says, "When the A's have insurance for this type of situation, aren't all MLB teams in the same boat unless they own their own stadium?" Well, even if they own their own stadium, David, no, because it's a freaking pandemic. And so basically what you're asking is, if I take what you write, David, and I twist it around another way, is a good question. In other words, hey, did they plan for a pandemic? The answer is no.
Yeah. I don't know what kind of insurance you would have. I mean, like, that would cover your rent in the event of a COVID-19. I mean, I don't think there's something that exists like that. I don't know.
You have to be like Sheldon Adelson. You have to be basically a casino owner, and that's where corporate ownership would be, a fantastic thing to allow, because a corporation would have enough money to weather the storm much better than an
individual.
Right.
Well, the thing that you kind of also have to think about is that, like, I know that everybody is like, well, these guys are billionaires, these guys are millionaires, these guys have so much money, they have billions and billions and billions of dollars, right? Okay, that might be true, but even if you are a billionaire, right, and you're continually having to make payroll, and you're continually having to pay the players, and you're continually having to pay the rent, and there's no income coming in, at some point you don't have $1 billion anymore.
Right. I'm not going to say this person's name. I was trying to explain that to a council member a few months ago. I said, you know what? This person was saying, well, so-and-so has this business. I'm not going to mention it because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But so-and-so has this business, and they should be able to afford X and not lay off people. And I said, do you realize that it takes $200,000 to put a key piece of equipment? I'm not saying what it is because they'll definitely give it away, but a key piece of equipment in just to keep that business not only running, but also attracting people so that it can remain the state of the art in the city. And this person didn't get that. And that's why elected officials should not be running the Coliseum Joint Powers Authority. And because they're common folk like you and me. Well, frankly speaking, I don't view anybody as common, so I shouldn't even say it that way. My point is that the nature of being an elected official means that you're in this different direction, this one, you're all over the place. Leave it to the specialists. Like have a task force, So I'm sorry, Brian, it just has got me so, my blood is boiling. I'm like, really?
I saw people like blasting this all over social media today. I haven't really touched it, right? But I've seen people blasting it all over social media today about what a terrible person John Fisher must be for not doing this. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know that I feel that way. I mean,
no, not terrible. And for not only that, here's what's worse. Okay, what's worse is this. Let me read you this statement that's in the Coliseum Joint Powers Authority minutes on the 15th. Let me read you this, Brian, because it made me turn somersaults.
Yes, and let's just remind everybody, today is the 19th.
Thank you.
We're talking just days ago.
Yeah. And it's 19th. And then this is what it reads. It reads, there it is. Okay. It reads this, okay? And this financial impacts from canceled or postponed events at arena and stadium. Quote, the general manager of AEG/ASM is providing a report on the financial impacts of canceled or postponed events. Given the current state of the shelter-in-place orders and the conditions the governor has imposed for reopening, it is unlikely that we will be able to host any events before September and perhaps not before January 2021. It is imperative that AEG ASM substantially reduce its operating expenses for the remainder of the fiscal year and next fiscal year. Even if the mandates are lifted before September, a prudent conservative expectation is that attendance will be light and should be incorporated in any projections. Well, doesn't that first of all, this, if they know that the operating expenses for the remainder of the fiscal year and the next fiscal year will be low, why would they then turn around, and they know that attendance is going to be low, why would they then turn around and literally embarrass the A's for a situation where they shouldn't be paying rent?
Well,
not only that, making it look like an extortionary trick. In other words, oh, hey, we know that we have to reduce our expenses. We have to reduce our operations, and we have to close up shop. But we're going to get money from those A's that they don't need.
Well, but the thing is that if you listen to that statement, the statement that you just read, it's implying that these funds are not going to be coming into them. And then there's also a note in there about attendance, which attendance wouldn't affect what the A's, the revenue from that the A's get from attendance goes to the A's, and then they pay rent, right? So like if there was 50,000 people at the Coliseum in an A's game or 10,000 people at the Coliseum for an A's game, I believe the A's play the same amount of rent. Am I right?
That's right.
So yeah, of course. So so the implication that you're not going to have additional revenues, or you're going to have lower revenues, is implying, it doesn't say, but it implies that you're not going to be receiving that rent, because the attendance doesn't matter to you when you're the landlord.
And get this, they put that in on the 15th, right? Okay. In the media that you read, because I saw one thing from the Bleacher Report, and I just like, are you kidding me? Did anybody bother to mention the board meeting?
Yeah.
Did they?
I don't think so. The articles I saw people reposting was from the Mercury News, and I didn't.
The answer is no. You just said it right there. No, they didn't. Okay. No.
Yeah.
They did. They were like, "Oh my God, I got a quote. Oh, I got a quote. Oh, I got a quote. Fuck your quotes."
Yeah.
Jesus. I mean, this is like, they quote people, and they go off with these ideas that, because they said this, it must be true, rather than, hey, you know what? Let's check what the board meeting said.
Yeah.
And then they can go and say, wait a minute, they said this, but the board meeting said that. And hey, this doesn't look right, and it looks like there's somebody trying to make the A's look bad.
That's exactly what it looks like. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
But the thing is, and the thing that's so frustrating about it, I think it's partially what's upsetting you and upsetting other people. The thing that's so frustrating about it is that it works.
Yeah, well, to a degree. In the middle of a pandemic, I would hope that people watch you have time to turn on their brains and think like you do.
Yeah.
You don't have to take your brain's always on, but the whole point is that sometimes to my detriment, which I love, but the whole point is. But the whole point is that the simple fact of the matter, though, is that, look, we can't get to a point where the government, which is supposed to be helping business through its hardest time, is making it look bad for all those people running around who are waiting to see Oakland screw up with the A's and figure out some kind of way of getting rid of them, right? Yeah. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, and so nationally, what do we look like? Mm-hmm. I think we look stupid. I don't know what you think.
No, that's what I think, and even like what you're saying, like the things I've been seeing people post is, oh look, there's Oakland. They lost the Raiders, they lost the Warriors, and now here go the A's.
That's right.
That's what the narrative. I mean, that's what people are saying.
Oh, and then let's put a finer point at it. We kicked them out at their worst financial moment. We don't turn around and say, hey, you know what? Hey, Conway Jones is connected with the Oakland Post. He knows President Trump. We'll put our elder statesman to work and help us get payroll protection program, because we know that there are certain people who are involved in that for Major League Baseball who are on the White House task force. I don't care how people feel about politics. That's what we got to do. It's just, it boggles my mind the degree to which people want to play in the worlds they know, even during a pandemic. Yeah. It's like, we have to play a game. We gotta figure out something like, man. Clyde Moore Coleman says, do you think Alameda County is doing this on purpose? Yes. Raiders SP says, stupid false reporting sadly happens all the time. It's sad. And that's why media is going down the tubes, the old media that had no business on the internet to begin with, okay? Because it doesn't do tech. It does all this. I'm going to quote you, and I'm going to repeat you, and I'm going to do this. And not only that, I'm not going to hire anybody black, and I'm going to keep everybody else out. Forget it, okay? Move aside. Make a way for the 21st century where people have no problem reading, arguing, figuring it out. Nobody has all the right answers. But we have a medium of intra-systemic communications using text messages and video and live stream together and to make a difference. I might add, really had its proud birthplace during the Occupy Wall Street moments. I mean, some of the best live stream stuff in tech came out during that time. It was like, wow. MM Forever, who hasn't been around, MM Forever says, is the A's new stadium still on track, or has the COVID pandemic derailed? It hasn't derailed it. It's just slowed things down. What do you think about this, Brian? Because you're paying attention to it.
Yeah. No, I think it's just slowed the whole process down. I think that we've been waiting for the CIR to come out, and so I think that the problem is that now that things have gone virtual and people aren't having meetings, and you can't have community get-togethers and meetings, that it's just the whole thing is slowed down. Now, this may result in a delay in the A's opening their stadium in 2023, but because we should be in the middle of the EIR process, where the public comment period, like that was supposed to be, it was supposed to come out on Valentine's Day on February 14th, and then it got pushed back a week, and they got pushed back one more week, and then that pushed us into COVID-19, basically. So it's just delay. I don't think it's a nail in the coffin for that project, but I think that we just have to wait, and it sucks because that's what we've been waiting. Right. And this is years and years and years. It's funny because I was watching over the weekend, NBC Sports California was replaying the 2006 American League Divisional Series from when the A's played the Twins and they swept them at the Coliseum, and the third game was at the Coliseum. And it's funny, I was looking at it, and it's funny because you go back and you look at 2006, there was the tarps and everything on the Coliseum, and it's like, here we are in 2020 and we're still dealing with this.
Yeah.
that was, and you think, well, that's not that far ago, and then you go, that was 14 years ago.
14 years. Yeah, 14 years.
So it's been longer than that even, you know what I mean? But it just reminded me when I saw on the screen, I saw the tarps, it just kind of reminded me, man, here we are, it's 2020 and we're still kind of in the same boat that we were in 2006.
Yeah, and went from there to 2009 when I was at the Origin meeting for what is now called Coliseum City, and Bob Lesty and Steve Lowe and late Frank Dobson came in with this idea to build retail around the Coliseum primarily for baseball. And that basically got taken by my good friend Oakland Councilman Larry Reed and turned into Coliseum City. Unfortunately, Larry forgot to bring Frank Dobson with him. And Frank Dobson took off in a fit of pick to Palm Springs, claiming the city of Oakland took his idea without any, input, remuneration, or compensation. And then he died of cancer in 2010.
Yeah.
Very sad story. But I say that because Frank Dobson is the person who first realized we needed a Coliseum City. But Larry was the first to realize that he could take Dobson's idea and expand it, and he did this with Fred Blackwell as the person I contend is the best economic development director we had in the 21st century. But unfortunately, he didn't deal well with the changes that were wrought by ranked choice voting, and took off and now is the virtuoso executive director, CEO of the San Francisco Foundation. But I digress. I'm just getting back to what I'm tired of. I know we can do better. And I'm concerned that, to me, we need to apologize to the athletics, which we probably will never do, but we need to do it like right now and say, because the board minutes point to a messaging error. I mean, how else? You know what I mean? They're right there in the minutes. And Brian, not only that, the minutes not only appeared on the 15th, but guess what? Someone wrote those on either the 15th or 13th or leading up to it. So they had a lot of time to think about this.
Right, yeah.
And that's what's getting me. I'm like...
Well, and wouldn't there have been like, oh, well, wait, though. We have this rent payment coming in from the A's. Wouldn't that have been a part of the discussion? It wasn't. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Like, what are we going to do with the money that the A's are paying for their rent?
Right.
Like,
I will tell you this. Scott McKibben would not have handled this like that.
Yeah.
He just wouldn't have, And as the person who advocated for Scott to get hired, I say this again. They set that man up to make it look like he did something untoward and put him in a situation without any guidance. And then did other things like, for example, have him bring in certain ex-elected officials to work on the Raiders situation for $25,000, and one elected official set that up and basically told Scott to do it. I can go on and on and on. They put that man through the ringer.
Yeah.
And he's still, and rightly so, upset about it. It gives him nightmares because he really believed in reviving the Coliseum. He got the Coliseum, the first budgetary surplus it had ever seen. I mean, in decades, okay?
Yeah.
And he basically said to the Raiders, you know what? I'm going to give you a taste of the high rent you're going to wind up paying in Las Vegas. But I'm going to give you a little bit of a taste of it. Because he knew that they were getting away with literally fiscal murder, and the organization that was being killed was the Coliseum.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. But it's kind of like, I mean, it's Operation Status Quo, huh?
But why though? I mean, at what point do we say enough? At what point do we say, okay, initiative time, sign the initiative, make them have a sports commission, you know?
Yeah.
And without elected officials of staff, kind of like the police commission.
Yeah.
And go from there, because this is ridiculous. It's giving me a bellyache. And I hope I'm not the only one. The trouble is that with the Raiders having gone and with the Warriors going over to San Francisco, I think we've lost part of the fan base constituency that will really drive home that. Now we have, with the turnover in population, of people who quite literally don't care.
That's the way I feel too. I feel that exactly what you just said is that I think the big problem we have is that we have a lot of people who, oh well,
yeah, that's it, and
they're not from here, and just whatever.
Exactly, I hear a lot of that. I went to.
I'm a Philadelphia Phillies fan. Who cares?
Yeah, I went to.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I went to the Athletic Bar. Right when the Niners played the visiting Green Bay Packers on Sunday Night Football last year, that place was packed with Niners fans.
I know.
In Oakland. And I'd never seen that. It was like, whoa. I mean, I've gone to places like, Room 389, right? Room 389, you might have, I think I lost Brian here, but I'll continue. Room 389. Yeah, here we go. Okay. Room 389. Primer says, Room 389, you might see maybe a smattering of Niners fans, or you'd see people who are casual fans. Like, I remember when the Niners were doing really, really well under Coach Walsh, and Room 389 was called the Golden Bear and was owned by Jerry Fagoni, who Jerry and Rick were two of the coaches for assistant coaches to Jack Clark of the world famous Cal rugby team, Go Bears. And you could walk in there and that place was full of casual fans who were Niner fans. They weren't wearing red, but the Athletic, they were wearing red, man. It was like, oh my Lord. And I interviewed there, it was wild. Oh, Climore says, I think the A's should get a new owner. I don't think so. Why? The A's ownership has done nothing wrong. I think what you should want is a new Coliseum Joint Powers Authority that doesn't try to make its only remaining major sports tenant look bad in the middle of a pandemic when it wrote a staff report that basically exonerates the same organization.
Yeah.
Okay. I think you should not listen to the mainstream media. I think you should listen to Zenny 62 Media and Oakland News Now. Yeah, I'm arrogant for saying that, but I'm also god doggone right. Okay. So, this is like, if I had nails, I would be chewing them, man. In a fine powder.
Hey,
Oh.
you know the problem, Zenny. I just figured out the problem here. It's that me and you, neither of us have any hair, so we can't pull it out.
That's true. You may have sweating, man. It's like, golly, it reminds me of the days when I was at I was a member of something called the Hash House Harriers, and they were a running club with a drinking problem because I love to have cocktails at bars and everything. Like who doesn't, right?
Mhm.
Or didn't? I don't do that. I haven't done that in a long time. But
Are you sure it wasn't a drinking club with a running problem?
yes, that's what it was. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
It was a drink. It was a drinking club with a running problem. But whatever it was, they had a problem. And so when I ran though, I would, and I was finished running. We do these scavenger hunts around the Presidio and everything else. Really cool.
Mhm.
But someone called me Steamer. It was because steam would come off. So I got the nickname Steamer. That was a lot of fun. That was a ton of fun. MM Forever says, "Hey Zinni, do you see the A's redesigning a new stadium to fit the COVID-19 social distancing, spaced out seats, or is this not going to any affect any design plans?" Brian, what do you think?
No, I don't think so. I think that we're planning. I mean, the A's are planning for 2023, 2024. I think that there's not. I mean, hopefully by that point, we're beyond this. I don't know that we'll ever get back to the point where we were prior to COVID, but I don't think there's going to be any redesign plans based on what's going on right now. I don't think so.
It's an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
Invite, I think, a new future stadium design, wherein if you have another pandemic situation, it would be prudent to have a stadium design and plan that you could, flip a switch and activate its notice, rather than, oh, we got to shut down because we can't effectively separate people. We don't have the right materials. We have bars to grab that are steel and everything else. Hey, let's do this because as we go to the hour. I want to close this out, but I want to give people the preview. I want to talk about Vegas, man.
Okay.
Vegas is partially reopened, but what got me when I was just checking out hotel prices, the resort fees. I'm like, no.
The resort, yeah. It was MGM came out with their big announcement. Hey, guess we're gonna not charge for parking anymore. But you notice that part of that announcement, there was nothing about the resort fees. Actually, when I was looking, and we can talk about this tomorrow too, but when I was looking at the rates, there was a couple of this is unbelievable to me. There was a couple of situations where the hotel rate was lower than the resort fee. So
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
So you and people look at the rates and they go, "Oh my gosh, $49! Oh, but there's a $62 resort fee. Oh, so my hotel rate is really $111, not $49."
Yeah, and it's back to the continuation of stuff that Brian's with Wyndham, and that we talked about prior to the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I have you here, and we'll continue this tomorrow, of course, at I believe we said 3 o'clock your time,
yeah.
6 o'clock. Yeah. What do you think about the way Vegas is recovering? And I mean, because I put it this way, I really root for Vegas to recover, but I got to be 1,000,000,000% honest. The worst experiences regarding rates that I've had just came hitting me in the face in the form of a nightmare when I saw what I saw, and I thought, have they learned anything? What's going on?
I don't know. It's like they need to address it because, and the thing is, and I actually posted this the other day. I made some comment about this to some people, and I was like, what's the crazy thing about Vegas and these resort fees is, I mean, we're not talking $10. We're not talking $5. These resort fees are north of 40, north of 50, north of $60. And then you get there and they say oh, hey, we have your reservation here, and there is a $52 resort fee, but we're including in that resort fee, we're going to give you access to our swimming pool. We're going to allow you to use our fitness center, and maybe we'll give you a little bit of Wi-Fi, right, with that. And then you stand there and you look at it, you go, oh, you mean the things that are included in every other hotel room?
Yeah, that's what I noticed. I was like, whoa.
I get to pay extra for the things that are included in every other hotel room, in every other hotel, in every other city.
Yeah, I saw that. You know, my head went.
My favorite inclusion that you also see sometimes in Vegas in the resort fee is it's optional. You have to check a box on the form on the registration form you say at the hotel. But if you check the box, then Monday through Friday they'll bring you a USA Today newspaper too for $50.
You know, at this day and age, now if they had said, "We'll bring you an iPad with the USA," oh, cool, that'd be cool. Yeah, can I keep it? But no, it's like, yeah, I mean, but yeah, USA Today. It's like, wow, they're still in print. Ooh. Yeah. It's speaking of which, and we're talking about that. I want to go. I'm gonna check hotels.com real quick. And
so I can give you a little glimpse about what kind of happened. Sure. So Treasure Island in Las Vegas, basically they're kind of leading the way a little bit. So Treasure Island came out, I believe it was on what day was it? I think it was either Sunday or Monday. It's in the last couple of days. I don't remember. The days all start running together here. But it was in the last couple of days. Treasure Island came out and said, hey, we're doing it. We're reopening. We're going to be open on Memorial Day weekend. And we're going to open for that Friday Memorial Day weekend. And here we go, right? And so they put the rates out there, everything. And it was interesting the way that things progressed throughout the day. I followed it very closely. So when they first put their rates out, they had like an introductory rate of like $69, I think, for Memorial Day weekend, which, by the way, is unheard of. Like Memorial Day weekend in Vegas is typically a very, very busy, high-priced time, right?
I can actually put that up right now. You ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I put that up right now because I found, I believe, what you are referring to. And if I haven't found exactly the same one, you'll let me know. But let's see here and allow. And I believe bam. And let me see if I can.
Okay, yeah, $69.
Yeah.
Now, which day? Now, are you checking for next? What day did you check?
It says May 26th.
Okay, yeah. So here's what happened. Mm-hmm. So Treasure Island put these $69 rates out there for Memorial Day weekend for this Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? Which is the 22nd or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I was watching it throughout the day, and the rates were going higher and higher and higher and higher. So, just kind of, I mean, I don't know that this isn't like a big secret I'm going to reveal about the hotel industry, but as occupancy increases, rates increase, right? As there's more demand, the price is going to go higher, right? For a hotel room, obviously, that's the way that it works. So the rates kept going higher and higher. So I was thinking they must be selling a crap load of rooms, right? Because their rate just keeps getting higher and higher and higher when they were offering a $69 rate. Well, then all of a sudden, later that night, I checked and they were not selling rooms anymore. I was like, I wonder if they're sold out. Well, that's not exactly what happened. I believe that someone told them, you're not going to be open on Memorial Day weekend. Maybe it was a government official or someone did. And now the first day it's available is actually the day that you're checking, the 26th. So now they're planning on opening on Tuesday. I believe that's Tuesday, right? Next Tuesday?
Yeah.
So now they're planning on opening on next Tuesday. I'm wondering if what actually happened is that they were like, hey, we're going to open on Memorial Day weekend. And someone said, you're going to cause chaos if you do that because people are off work. I mean, and people are just going to flood there. And you need to have more of a soft opening than right into a holiday weekend. I think that's what happened.
A great idea. You know, someone said they're trying to rush to get. And my mom observes, she believes they're trying to rush to get their money back. What are your thoughts?
I think, well, no, definitely. I mean, look how much money they're losing. I mean, buildings are just sitting empty. I saw that. I did see something interesting today. Someone who I follow on YouTube who does he goes to different casinos and like plays the slot machines. You know, he shows people playing the slot machine. And I don't know if you know this, but it was either today or yesterday. But all of the casinos in Arizona reopened.
I did notice
in the state of Arizona, and they had big lines, and like they filled the capacity like within like minutes after opening. You know, people are trying to get their gambling fix. But I was watching his YouTube, and he was kind of showing the casino. He actually went, you know, to check it out, to see what it was all about. And he was showing like the casino, and basically the way that they were doing it was that like every other slot machine was turned off, and they had like little barriers, so you couldn't, like, people weren't going to be sitting right next to you, and they had like limits at the limited seating at the different table games. So it was interesting. It was interesting, but so they did open today. But yeah, obviously, I mean, these casinos are, I mean, the everything in Vegas, and actually, you know, Vegas. I think that the casinos, the gambling portion of Vegas, I think that that's actually it's trending towards where that's just going to kind of be ancillary revenue, and they're really getting the revenue from people who are coming to go to the clubs and eat at the fancy restaurants and all that stuff. I think that revenue at some point is probably going to overtake the gaming revenue. So
really,
yeah, and actually it's the gaming part of it is actually pretty interesting. They've come up with some new types of games that they're actually testing it out right now at I don't remember if it's at Caesars properties or if it's at MGM properties. I think it's MGM properties, and it's community gaming, which actually is kind of funny now because you're playing with a group of people, and instead of like you playing a slot machine, you're playing against the other players, and they're like kinds of like games of skill. Like, you know, and then whoever wins the game wins the pot, and the casino takes like a portion of the pot. So they're trying to. It's more gaming, like video gaming, like, you know, the younger generation is kind of, you know, into like the Xbox and stuff. It's more like along those lines of trying to attract those people into gaming. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But
by the way, Raiders News, please go. Says, I haven't heard anything more about the 3-month move-in period for the Raiders. I don't know why you would for anybody. Any news on that timeline wise? Well, right now, Corey, I'll remind you, no one knows if we're going to have a season. And we're in a situation where NFL training camp, NFL buildings, facilities have reopened, but only for executives. You don't have players going in. You have another week where coaches cannot really formally meet with players and go through the on-the-field laying out of game plans and strategy, which I think is going to make for a really interesting NFL season that is going to be unpredictable because we've always based it on, you know, the common standard OTAs, different timelines, players being plugged in by now. All that's obliterated. And add to that, people like Tom Brady going with new teams, not knowing the chemistry. But the bottom line is we don't know when the season is going to start, if it's going to. And I'm going to get your comment on this because you're also a Vegas watcher like me. But when I saw those tickets flying out of the way, I was thinking, ticket brokers, what do you think? You know?
Oh, yeah, definitely. They do the same thing with our hotel rooms, by the way. The ticket brokers, they do the same thing with hotel rooms. They try to get in, they try to catch us off guard and try to get in and book the rooms before we realize that there's something going on, and then they resell them to people. It happens to us frequently in the hotel industry. So I'm sure. Now, luckily, because I know about the NFL and, you know, about the Raiders and stuff, luckily my hotels were very well protected. But I'm sure there's something. Because, you know, I had an idea when the schedule was going to be released. This is all new to Vegas, right? So probably some of my competitors probably don't really, because I used to work with the hotel right next to the Oakland Coliseum and stuff. So like I know that I have a general idea of when the schedule is going to be released. And like if you're following the NFL, you kind of know when the schedule is going to be released. But as a hotel person and you're in Vegas, like at my competitors, they might not know. You know, they might not be following it that closely because they're not used to having to go in and change things around for. So some of them probably did get caught off guard. And so when they released the schedule, they probably got booked at low rates.
And by the way, those of you who think I'm against the Raiders, look what I'm wearing. Just saying, okay? I'm not, you know, I'm not gonna. In fact, I was thinking about that, Brian. I came into this because I'm Oakland based, but I covered the NFL and the draft for years before this stuff started happening. And so I was trying to explain to some folks. I'm not even going to bother mentioning their names, but I thought, you know what? Why do I have to give up my business because you guys have an issue? I may even said that to a guy at the league. I said, don't thrust me into that because if it weren't for the league, I couldn't have gotten as far as I have.
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't have. And I owe a lot to them just in giving me access and other things that I don't necessarily want to mention here. But I'm not going to give that up. I'm just not. There's no reason to.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. I'm not. If Mark had listened to my stadium plan and done it, then I would have bore some responsibility, maybe for doing something they didn't like, but they didn't even give me the chance to be branded that way.
Yeah.
Actually, they did. In fact, I remember Eric Grubman. It was the 15th of May. That was after, not 15th of May, but it was the week after that. And Grubman was in town for a meeting with the Raiders, and I got wind of it.
This is long before the Paramount, right?
This was, this was before the Paramount. This was because on the 17th of May of 2015 at the NFL Spring League meeting, actually the 19th, Mark Davis had said, when I was standing talking with him, and me and Mike Silver were talking with him after the PFT, the PDA, not PDA, but the point after attempt vote. And also after the media had sort of that crush, and I accused him of going behind Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf's back. And after that, he said, you come up with a stadium plan. And I looked at Silver, and Silver put it on Twitter. Yeah, he did say that. Anyway, a few days later, into the next week, I got wind that Eric was at Raider headquarters. So I went by there, and Eric wound up getting into Mark Badane's SUV. And so I basically followed them to the Oakland airport. I had no idea. I mean, I was alongside, Badane was like right here, right?
Yeah.
And he's like driving, and he's like got his biting his tongue or biting his fingernails about something. and so they get to the main terminal, and I stay about 8 car lengths behind, and I got up a little closer and I parked.
Mm-hmm.
And I followed Eric inside. and he looked up, he goes, first words out of his mouth, Zinni, they're not using your idea. I said, I kind of figured they weren't, but it was just the way I had to find that out was hilarious because I wasn't getting anybody. I decided I was going to go James Bond on that one, but all
of a sudden you're driving down the road and like there's rocks coming out of the car. And what's going on here?
Hey, I'm glad Badane didn't have an oil slick. You know what I mean? So, but we all did what we could do, and I think it's like if I'm excited the Raiders are getting a stadium, and hey, I'm always loved Las Vegas, so it's like sort of Oakland is kind of like there's a situation and there's that, right? And I've always loved Las Vegas, so it's like, why would I want to give that up? I mean, I remember, it was 2015. I called Steve Hill because I was trying to get an interview with him. I called him 10 times. Never called me back, asshole. But that was and so, the one of the few bright things I got out of this, actually quite a few, really. I got a lot of bright things out of this whole matter, but I got to meet Steve and interview him because I I regard him as one of the finest economic development officers in the United States, period. It's a hard job to go through these complex deals and think you've got something done. And then it falls apart. I remember watching Dan Doctoroff, who was the mayor's economic development director in New York, go through that when they thought they were going to build a stadium, a really cool dual team stadium for the Jets and the Giants in basically in Midtown in the west side of Manhattan. And that all fell apart. I mean, between the rail yards, I think environmentalists, and then the Jets didn't like certain design aspects, and the Giants didn't like certain design aspects of it. It was really a Jet stadium more than a Giant stadium. But for a lot of reasons that it really stupid, okay? It just fell apart. It's supposed to be part of their Olympics bid. It all fell apart. I was really excited for New York, but it didn't work out. And so I'm saying that to put together, or even when I was trying to bring the Super Bowl to Oakland, Oakland never gave itself a chance. There was a guy that worked, he worked construction, public works. I would always see him on the way to my office for a 14-day straight period. He would always say, Super Bowl Oakland, he'd start laughing at me. So after about the first 4 days of him laughing at me, I mean, deliberately like, ha, 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 pointing, I got tired of it. And I just said, yeah, Super Bowl Oakland. And I would say, yeah, Super Bowl Oakland. And then one day we were on the elevator and I said, say it. You know, so finally I got to a point where on the 14th day, he was saying Super Bowl Oakland. But I say that because it's the kind of mindset that Oakland has had with respect to the idea that it can't build projects. It can't do things, and the government can't do it. It's always the private sector. Now what we have is we have the private sector remaking Oakland and the government basically sitting back and doing this. That's what bothers me, you know?
Yeah.
All right, my friend. Well, I'm going to let you go.
All right.
And it'll be fun tomorrow.
Yep, for sure.
Vegas and hotels and
the timing is actually perfect because today you're very fortunate here. The 19th of the month is when all of the prior month reporting comes out, and I have all of the hotel reporting for Las Vegas and the data. So I have all the April data in my fingertips.
Tune in, folks. Be here. I'm going to set the stream room yard as soon as we get off. Be here or don't be anywhere. Be here. I think that's corny enough. All right. All right. Hey, Brad, stick around, folks. Come back. I'm going to put up the stream yard. I'm going to close out right now. Thank you all for stopping by. And if you haven't done so before, subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube and bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com. And remember, go Oakland. Always expect the best from your government representatives. Always. Never settle. All right. In the broadcast there.